I want to start by asking a question. And my question is, who feels that we live in a very troubled world? I'm going to put my hand up right there. Yeah, right. It's easy to believe that. But the good news is that we can change things, right? That's the good news. And that's what we as a community do at Creative Conscience. And as Eddy mentioned this morning, we're absolutely all about impact. So we call ourselves positive creative activists, and as well as running award schemes and doing events and running courses and stuff like that, we actually do live projects. And this amazing youth panel that we have waiting in the wings, that's going to be hosted by Libby, they're going to come on stage in a minute when I've stopped wittering on, and they're going to have a discussion about this particular project. But before we start, I want to briefly tell you something that happened to me a couple of years ago. I like to talk about my mother because she's absolutely incredible. She's coming up to 94. She lives on her own in the unremarkable town of Woking, and she lives in a beige flat in the ground floor of a sort of 70s flat, and she's incredible. She's really, really happy and amazing. And it was just at the end of COVID-19, at the end of some what I would consider rather ridiculous laws and restrictions that we had at the time. And I turfed up to see my mother, and as I came up on my bike, I'd got the train, and I came on my bike, I saw my brother, and he was standing in the kitchen window. And of course, I hadn't seen my brother, this particular brother, for a long time. And so I was really excited, and I was waving at him, hey, Martin, how are you doing? But unfortunately for me, and also my mother, my brother was not happy to see me. See, my brother Martin is an ex-solicitor. I would like to say he's probably a Tory voter, definitely on the right wing of things. And he very much believes in our government and what I might call our so-called leaders and the law. And I went bounding in, past my mother, gave her a hug, went running in. Hey, Martin, it's great to see you. And he went ballistic. Because apparently, at that moment in time, right at the end of those restrictions, we weren't supposed to be two of us in the room with my mother. Even though my mother had been living on her own, she'd been isolated, although actually she didn't abide by the law. She was out talking to randoms along the canal and drunks and homeless people, because that's who she is. But apparently, we weren't supposed to be there together. And I said to Martin, hey, don't worry, it's fine, you'll go off, and no one need know. And he got more and more angry, and I was getting him, I was going, calm down, Martin, it doesn't matter, it's fine. I think I even called him, stupid or something at one stage, because I was losing the plot myself. And he refused to be in the same room with me, and ultimately, he ran out of the door, kind of in a red-faced rage, and stormed off into the distance. Well, I don't know if I should say this, but I was actually quite amused seeing a middle-aged, so-called intelligent man throwing his toys out the pram and losing it in front of my mum. So I thought it was all kind of quite amusing. But my mother was obviously a bit upset. Like, what mother wants to see her children kind of, like, not getting on? We're fine, by the way, just to let you know. It was just a blip in time. I apologised. But what happened then was my mother and I sat down to have a conversation about the law. And she said, Chrissy, we have to abide by the law. And I said, well, do we? If we think the law is an ass, if we think the law is actually unjust, if the law doesn't make sense, then should we really abide by it? And she said, yes, we have to abide by the law. And so I carried on, and I said, well, let's look at this in a different frame, Mum. Let's think about, say, the suffragette movement. The suffragette movement, if you don't know, some of you might not know in the room, were a group of mostly women that fought, that were imprisoned, that died, so that women in this country, and then along the way, other people, other women around the world, to have the right to vote. They broke the law. And when my mother got that, as a feminist, she went, yeah, okay, I get that. So why I'm telling you this story is that sometimes we might have to engage with things that we don't believe in or things that we've lost our faith in order to change the world for the better. And that's what the suffragette movement did. As I said, women in this country died for all of us, if we can. Some of us might not be able to vote. We might be from countries where you can't vote. And so I think as creative thinkers, we've been responsible for changing the course of history, and it's really important and it's powerful. So what's all that got to do with creativity? Well, creativity is a political act. What we choose to create, design, build, or how we design it, how we build our businesses, the ethics, our morals, all of that, how we manufacture things, right, David and Stephanie, all of that really matters, and it affects society. This is my favorite piece of graphic design in the world. What the suffragette movement did was they stamped across King George V's face, votes for women. That's an illegal act. Right there, them doing that. If you did that in this country today, it's against the law to deface the crown's currency. And they did that, and it was brilliant because these coins then went out across penny coins, they went out across every tier, every sector of the British society, and they hit people. There was no social media. And what was even more genius about that was that the Bank of England did not recall these pennies because it would cost them too much to reissue them. An absolutely brilliant piece of positive, creative activism. So why politics? Why should we care? Why should we engage in a system that we might have lost our faith in? And I know I felt absolutely frustrated with what's going on in this country and in other countries that we can watch across Europe and also in the States. Well, on the 5th of June, 1989, a solitude figure stood in front of 59 tanks in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, in China. This was a day after hundreds of people were massacred. Students, like some of you, were killed for demonstrating, for wanting democracy. No one knows the fate of this man, but it's really likely, highly likely, that he isn't alive today. And the reason why I want to point this out is because I want us not to forget those who have been tortured, imprisoned, or even died for our civil rights. How we behave, how we show up, how we act, how we create, how we design, how we engage in society makes a difference, even down to who we follow on social media. As we learned from Matt, they're tracking everything we do. So let's be conscious around what we engage with. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because last year in October, we launched a Why Vote competition. In the run-up to the UK's next general election, we wanted to encourage young people to use their voice through voting and engage with democracy. And the reason we do competitions, and I also would like to do a shout out for Kind, who don't engage with awards, but actually the reason we do competitions is because Jay Shetty said, in order to change society for the better, we first need to acknowledge and reward great behavior. So we thought, well, instead of us as an agency or as a creative body, why should we put a campaign out for young people? Why don't we get young people to create for young people? So we launched this project that was called Why Vote, and it was a design competition to get young people, some of whom are in the room today and are going to join us on stage, to design stuff, posters, social media assets, to get young people to engage. And we were privileged to have one of my heroes, a guy called Alastair Campbell, as being one of our judges. And Alastair said, when it comes to something as important as the need to vote, powerful campaigns that really catch the eye and the mind can really make a difference. And So we had Alastair behind us, and one of the things that's going on in this country is that many young people feel that politics isn't something that they can engage in, and so encouraging young people to engage requires particularly eye-catching, informative and accessible content. And we were lucky enough to interview Alastair actually just on Friday, and this is what he had to say about this particular, I hope this works, this particular competition. If you don't know about him, I'm going to talk about him in a minute, but this is what he had to say.
If you don't vote, even if you see it as the single vote as a limited piece of action that you can take, it's an important piece of action because it's how you get your voice heard. It's how you have a say. If every politician thought that every young person aged 18 to 30 was going to vote, that would have a big impact upon how they view the issues that matter, how they address those issues, and the policies that they bring forward in an election campaign. There's so many kind of great innovative ideas that are happening to try to encourage people to get involved in the political process and to vote. And I support all of them. I support anything that actually gets people to understand that it's precious and that it matters and that it gives people the chance to have an influence. And it's actually about what we as individuals can do to engage in the big debates about the future of the world. So I think these campaigns that make young people think about why the vote matters and then makes them think about the issues behind what choices they make, I think are very, very valuable. I genuinely worry that if the next generation doesn't engage, doesn't step up, doesn't understand the responsibilities we all have to try to make politics better, then I really worry for the future of our country. And this is what the book is about. What can I do? And the answer is you do whatever you can do. And the first thing you have to do is to care about it, to understand that politics isn't something just for politicians. It isn't just something for the media to sort of blather on about 24 hours a day. It's for all of us. It's for all of us to get engaged. And it's not just about voting. It's about what you do between elections, to campaign, to win arguments, to fight for what you believe in, to inform yourself, to be clear about what is true and what isn't, to try to work out what's happening in the world around you and then try to influence it. That's what we should all be trying to do.
Perfect. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
So we're very grateful. If you don't know who Alastair Campbell is, he is an author and used to work for Tony Blair. There's an amazing podcast called The Rest is Politics. I wasn't interested in politics and I wasn't interested in watching the news, and I listened to this and I know what's going on in the world and it is amazing, so I would urge you that you get involved in that. The results of this competition are not going out until the 7th of March. However, we want to celebrate and acknowledge some of the amazing young creatives who took part in that competition. And I think there's going to be some chairs hauled up onto the stage. Now, I just want to ask, is Manish in the room? Manish, do you want to stand up and say hi to everyone? Yay, Manish. This is Manish's project. And Manish, we're just going to run your film very quickly while we get some...
Throughout history, young people like you have driven positive change. Your voice has always been your superpower. The power to shape your future for the better. And your comments won't get ghosted if you use your voice at the right place. Make your voice heard. Register to vote now.
Well done, Manish. You're going to find out. Yeah. Then there's Charlotte. Charlotte, I don't know if you're in the room. If you are, yeah, stand up. Let's have a round of applause for Charlotte. Yay, Charlotte, we're not going to run your film, mate, but thanks for coming and well done for your work. And Gabby also. Is Gabby in the room? I think she was registered. Anyway, look, we've had the most amazing work. Now, all those three guys are from NTU, and they are still studying. And I'm going to invite them on some other amazing young people onto the stage. But before I do that, I'd just like to invite you who haven't registered to vote, please register to vote. An amazing Holocaust survivor called Elie Wiesel said, "The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference." Let's not be indifferent. Let's not waste our voice. Let's get involved. I want to get all of you to register to vote and to have a vote. When I was 18, I was excited about having a vote, and I voted for the Monster Raving Loony Party because I didn't believe in the other parties, which is a really stupid thing to do. However, please register to vote. And remember, we always say we don't have the right to complain about anything unless we're willing to do something about it. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome some amazing young people onto the stage. Beth, Trim. This is Beth's project. Beth, are you around? Let's get you on stage. Come on. Right. And then we've got Natalia, Posnett. Big round of applause. Come on, people. Let's big it up for these young people. Poppy is actually a graduate and is working at Chase in London. So there she goes. And then last but not least is our amazing Libby, who is our designer at Creative Conscience. So I am going to hand these amazing people over. You know what you're doing, and thanks for listening. Go, guys.
Thanks for that, Chrissy. That was great. Hello, everyone. Great to be in the room. Great to be with people who feel the same way, have the same sort of fire in your belly for this kind of subject area. So first, I kind of want to just address why did you guys choose to enter this project? What struck a chord in you to put your work forward, to create something?
Well, I originally did a similar project for my final major project at university, and it was a self-initiated brief, and I thought this is a perfect chance to make work that was really important to me, and that's why I chose to create a project to get young people to engage in politics. And I realised when talking to my peers that a lot of us weren't registered to vote, and we engaged in media very differently. Like, we wouldn't watch the news on television, so like having different ways, like it's really important to have different ways that we're actually engaging with young people.
For sure. And you guys?
Yeah, so for me, when I initially received the brief, I was like, I'm not doing that, and I just thought it was boring. But then I actually took a step back and I thought, that's part of the problem, that most people like our age probably don't feel interested in it and don't want to be included in politics and like understand it. So then that's sort of what drove me then to like enter and then actually learn more about it. And I'm still learning more about it now, but I actually found it really like fun to do and kind of change the stereotype around voting being not that fun and like not as important, and then kind of create like a youthful campaign that speaks directly to young people. And I think we've all sort of taken quite a fun approach, I think, because we are speaking to young people, and that's the only way to sort of engage them, I think. But that's sort of why I created it.
Very inspiring.
Yeah, like the same. It's just about like, I feel like we're not engaging in the traditional news. Like, I feel like it can seem quite elitist and like off-putting, but I feel like we're already engaging in social media, so like there's a lot to be said about how that's the way to engage these groups of people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so, like when you hear stuff, if you're seeing things that have been created by people your age and people you can just relate to on that level, then you're so much more likely to sort of align with it. And I think it's really good. But why do you think it's so crucial for young people to get involved in politics? Why do you think we need to engage our generation?
Well, young people need to engage so that the relevant policies are created. If we're not registering to vote, then the world will be more set up to older privileged people. It will be harder for us in our future. And we've all got opinions, and I think it's really important that we get our voices heard.
Yeah, I think that at the moment the voting outcome, like for the last general election, represents mostly older people, and then that drives changes that only older people like believe in and think of. So I think what's important for the next general election is that we want everyone to be represented, and then that makes sure that all the changes is made by everyone, and then that sort of it's like inclusive to everyone then.
Yeah, like, I feel like young people just need to be shown that politics isn't apart from them, like it's all connected, so like they have to engage, otherwise they're not going to get what they want. And even if it's not something that they, like, if the results don't affect them straight away, or if they don't see the effects, it will eventually affect them. And I feel like, yeah, it's about finding a way into what they care about, making it part of what they care about. I don't know.
Yeah, just to add to that, sorry. The politics has like a bridge to so many different issues and like in your life that even I think as a young person you don't see an immediate effect. Like as you're saying, I think you kind of got to look out for your future self and that it will actually have an impact at some point, but even if you might not see it, you kind of got to trust the process.
Definitely, and I think, I don't know about you guys, but you know, this is my first general election that I'm old enough to actually vote in, so you know, I remember being sort of 16-ish, maybe a bit younger during the Brexit referendum, and I was so sort of frustrated that we weren't old enough to make a decision when all these, you know, everything considered affects our futures. So I think, yeah, the ball's in our court, isn't it? It's we're setting up, you know, our futures, and it's completely unfair if we're not being heard. So yeah, I guess that brings me on to my next question, which is, you know, what, you know, has anything positive come from creating these projects so far?
I think just generally, I've been talking about politics more, and like having more discussions, and with that comes with like lots of lessons and learning, getting things a bit wrong in these debates that I've been having with my peers, but then that aids me to learn, and my peers feel the same, I think. So yeah, and it just makes me quite hopeful, the fact that this is like a big project that we're all thinking about and we're all talking about.
Yeah, like I think a positive outcome for me is that it's made me more aware, and then if I can persuade myself, like hopefully then other people can be persuaded. And the word like politics shouldn't be scary to anyone, like it's not as scary as it seems. So I think hopefully a future positive change out of this project will be that people then actually go and vote when the time comes. So that's something like a positive thing that I'd like to see happen. But yeah, just spreading the message as well, like as you were saying.
The same.
And yeah, I think we've all probably, you know, spoken to our tutors, our peers about our projects, and yeah, a lot of conversations have come off that. So I think that's in itself, you know, quite a big thing. And obviously, we're here today talking about politics, which is something we're all very, very sort of, you know, invested in and passionate about. So I guess this is good. And yeah, my final question is, you know, do you have any kind of advice or you know, anything to sort of say to any other young people out there, you know, who want to make a difference, whether that's with their creativity or with anything else?
I think question everything and be a sponge. No matter like what the influence is, just be open. And like what Chrissy was saying about like breaking the law, like if you think something's not right, you make your voice heard. You question whether it's right. You talk to other people and you rally together and make a difference.
I think that's great. Sorry, I'll just jump in here. I think we learn from a really young age right from wrong. We don't need external people telling us you can't do this, you can't do that. I think just stay true to your values. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I think one thing in our generation, I think, is that we're very like consumer led and we consume so much media so quickly that I think in a trend setting generation it almost becomes like a snowball effect. If one person like does something, we all catch on. So I kind of think that in the same way, like in the general election, like everyone should just catch on to it. And you don't have to be the most knowledgeable person in the room or know much about it. But I think if you try and catch on to learning a little bit about it and just literally just voting for the sake of voting, that's all it takes. And then I think that's when a huge impact will happen.
Yeah, I feel like young people have the capacity to be very passionate about politics. It's just about whether they're spending their time engaging with it like they do with social media. Like, I feel like that's why it's quite the two together could be quite powerful, because ultimately that's where they're in those spaces, those online places, and it's like you have to go to them. I don't think they're going to come to you. But once they do, they'll be like radicalized. Like that's kind of how it was with me, with like Instagram accounts and stuff. Like once you start being faced with it and you can't avoid it, like you can't avoid the news because it's right in front of you all the time. I feel like that's, yeah, absolutely gonna work.
I think we like have so much power on social media, and we have our personal platforms, and I think you almost think, oh, what can I do? But it's the little things like where you buy your coffee, where you who you follow on social media, all loads of things. So I think just being clued up and more conscious about where you're spending your money, who you're supporting, and just having conversations, because we can't do it all on our own. We've got to collaborate, we've got to communicate, and yeah, I'm just feeling really excited to, I don't know, I think we've got to shift the narrative from being afraid and disenfranchised to, yeah, we can turn things around.
Definitely. I think because we're so good at using the media and we're always on it, I think we might as well use that to our advantage and help spread the message, and then everyone can like basically take a chance and vote, and yeah, everyone get involved basically.
I think there's exciting times ahead, hopefully. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me on the panel. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone else. Sorry, guys.
I'd just like to, before you leave the stage, and I know we're going to have some